I've been working on a submod for Ultimate Apocalypse called Cinis Cinerem. It's a submod in the sense that it uses UA and its assets as a base, but it's a complete gameplay overhaul and it plays very differently. It's in very early stages at the moment, with Chaos Space Marines as the only playable faction, but the gameplay is starting to feel very satisfying and fun, and some fresh perspectives and suggestions would really go a long way to improve it. It's quite hard to describe the mod as a whole, so I'll break it down into small components and explain them in some detail, but I won't get too in depth, so I can keep this video short and to the point. If you've played an RTS, you've probably experienced macro snowballing. In Dawn of War, the most common instance of it is when you capture one or more points in the enemy, pretty early on usually, resulting in a small lead in resource income. This increased income allows you to field more units and outnumber the enemy while taking fewer losses yourself, or investing these extra resources into teching up and getting the resource upgrades sooner. Now that you have the resource upgrades sooner, you're speeding ahead even quicker and your lead just grows exponentially from there. This generally makes the losing player feel helpless, like they were just stuck behind for the whole game and couldn't catch up, all because they lost the initial skirmish. To combat this, in Cinis Cinerem, maps are reworked so that there are twice the number of strategic points, and the centermost points are the critical locations and relics. Critical locations and relics remain the most contested points due to being in the center, but they no longer generate requisition resource now. Instead, crits are used to build additional HQs, and relics only generate the relic resource, which is used for late game powerful units. I'll talk about the significance of HQs later. Strategic points are twice as common, but half as important, so they cost half the amount, generate half the resources, and have half the health. This makes it less devastating to lose one, but also makes them easier to raid with a smaller force, because in general raiding should be viable without a sizable force that causes crippling damage to the player. While on the topic of raiding, all tier ups are permanent in the form of researchers, so no more destroying a faction's tier building and setting back a huge amount. Listening posts cannot be upgraded before tier 1 is researched, and the upgrade itself is more geared towards defense and fortifying the areas around them, and less about increasing the amount of requisition they produce. And this kind of works to make it less of a scramble to upgrade all of your listening posts as quickly as you can to boost your economy, and gives the decision a bit more nuance. In addition, the economy scaling has been reduced further by decreasing the impact of economy upgrades, while still maintaining a moderate to high resource rate. Another interesting addition is plasma generators no longer have a hard cap and instead increase in cost exponentially, creating more of a soft cap that punishes players less for being behind economically. And it also allows more player freedom when managing their economy. Losing a battle decisively can be a killing blow, setting you back a huge amount of resources and units to protect you. In Cinis Cinerem, all units return 20% of their reinforce cost on death, allowing you to quickly buy back a small defending force immediately after losing your army. The new HQ implementation also helps to counteract immediate snowballing. HQs provide a rapid health regen to nearby infantry, and their positioning on critical locations makes them great forward bases. This makes them a great place to fall back to or even hold the line. HQs and listening posts are also the only buildings that project an area where you can build, making it easy to fortify the area with defensive structures like turrets, tank traps, mines, and walls. As good as this sounds, however, you should note that regeneration is nullified while in combat for pretty much everything except very specific abilities, so don't expect your HQ to keep nearby infantry alive during a fight. As well as that, your HQs are the most important buildings in that they're the win condition. Destroying all the enemy HQs will annihilate them. A symptom of bad pacing is units having to be spammed carelessly. This is mainly caused by having an overtuned economy system and a population cap that's too large for the current pace. In Cinis Cinerem, the pop cap is limited by global tier, starting off small scale and escalating with each tier. This is one of the things that helps make each tier feel more unique, going from small scale skirmishes and securing map control in tier 0, to small scale battles, fortifying forward points in tier 1, and then testing those defences with larger scale battles and early vehicles in tier 2. Then ramping up all the way to full-on wars with titans on each side in tier 5. Tiers are a large part of pacing and are made to be more pronounced, expensive and important, while lasting a more comparable amount of time. Something that contributes to bad pacing is having an overabundance of powerful abilities on every unit, devolving gameplay into rapidly cycling through units and spamming as many abilities as possible during battles, ruining the feel of them. In Cinis Cinerem, unit abilities are reworked to have specific tactical use and have a shared cooldown for the whole squad. For example, look at grenades, each one has a situation where it excels. Let's say in a battle, you want to use an Inferno Grenade to keep infantry out of a choke point, but if you know the enemy has some vehicles in reserve, you may want to hold off on that, just so you're ready with crack grenades if they do bring the vehicles forward. Something else that hurt the game's pacing was the implementation of commanders. Commanders have gotten a huge overhaul. Each faction has 3 commander options, and you can only have 1 at any given time. And all of them are equal but specialised in different aspects, and they also take a decent chunk of population cap for infantry. Hero level is limited by global tier, scaling them appropriately alongside every other unit type, and one of the 8 wargear pieces is unlocked for each hero level you research. Commanders have between 3 and 5 abilities, which upgrade in strength depending on the hero level. Psychic commanders have very quick cooldowns on their abilities, but they use their morale as a mana bar, and if they rout, they have to wait 45 seconds before they can use their abilities again. Commanders can no longer be attached to units, and they also emit a large wave of morale damage to nearby friendly units when they're killed. There are some more significant changes to pacing, including global deep strike mechanics being reduced, infiltrators and detectors being reworked to be more tactical, and heavy weapon amounts scaling per global tiers, but I won't go into them here. Another thing I'm trying to avoid is players being forced into a specific playstyle, especially when playing certain factions. A big part of this is units becoming redundant once a later tier is reached and more advanced units are unlocked. Abilities that provide utility, such as infiltration detection, or abilities that affect all units equally, such as stun grenades, help counteract this and keep early units relevant throughout the game, while still keeping the more advanced units very powerful. So now you have some idea of what Cinis Cinerem is about and some of the major changes to gameplay. If you're interested in playing or even helping out, then feel free to join the Discord link below. Any feedback and suggestions are very welcome, and they will help the mod a lot.